And we're making a start here with the big breaking news at this point in time. The Congress leaders who were detained earlier have now been released. Let's cut across.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to be seeing a lot more reactions there coming in. But remember, Congress had held Pan-India protest today against the centre's inaction, as they call it, against price rise and unfair GST. In fact, Mumbai, Chennai, Guwahati, Jammu, everywhere there were a lot of protests that was seen. In national capital, there was a face-off as well between the protesters and the police. And several leaders were detained, including Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi. Priyanka Gandhi herself had a huge face-off with the cops, and you can see those visuals there on your screens as well. And in fact, that's not all. All right, let's cut across. More reactions.
साथी पहले मैं उसकी निंदा करता हूँ, भर्त्सना करता हूँ। वही मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि हम तो राष्ट्रपति भवन जा रहे थे, शांतिपूर्वक जा रहे थे। सांसदगण यही कहने जा रहे थे कि महामहिम राष्ट्रपति जी, आपने ही तो बुलाया था ये सेशन पार्लियामेंट, और वहाँ हम अपनी बात कह नहीं पा रहे, महंगाई पर, बेरोजगारी पर, एजेंसियों के दुरुपयोग पे। तो आप मेहरबानी करके निर्देश दें, यही तो कहते हैं उनसे। परंतु जिस बर्बरता से, जिस निरंकुशता के साथ रोका गया, बलपूर्वक हम लोगों को यहाँ लाया गया, यहाँ रखा गया जेल में, ये लोकतंत्र की हत्या है।
तो आगे कांग्रेस की क्या रणनीति है आपकी?
सड़क पर, संसद में, हर जगह लोकतांत्रिक ढंग से तब तक संघर्ष करेंगे जब तक महंगाई जो बढ़ी है, जीएसटी नहीं हटाई जाती, बेरोजगारी के लिए कोई रोड मैप नहीं तैयार होता और सरकारी एजेंसियों का दुरुपयोग को नहीं रोकता।
धन्यवाद।
Well, in fact, it was a massive face-off that was seen in the middle of the national capital, on the streets of the national capital, between the Congress leader and cops as well. Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, other Congress leaders were stopped in their protest march against inflation. Let's cut in.
शांतिपूर्वक प्रोटेस्ट करने दे रहे हैं। ये लोकतंत्र में आज से पहले कभी हुआ नहीं। विपक्ष को पूरा राइट होता है अपनी बात कहने का। हम महंगाई पे प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे, शांतिपूर्वक मार्च कर रहे थे और राष्ट्रपति जी से मिलने जाना चाहते थे। आज पूरे देश में मैसेज गया है और आज पूरे देश में कांग्रेस का प्रोटेस्ट हुआ है और आवाम हमारे साथ है। और हम चाहते हैं कि जो गूंगी बहरी सरकार है उसके कान में आवाज पहुंचे और जो जीएसटी 5% और 12 से 18 किया गया है उसको कम किया जाए। चलो।
Well, those are the details here coming in at this point in time. But let me go across to Nukul, who's joining us for more at this point. Nukul, what can you tell us? Earlier on, it was a massive face-off that we saw erupt on the streets of the national capital. But now Congress leaders, including Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi, have been released. All right, we will try and reconnect with Nukul in just a bit. But what we saw earlier on today was a massive face-off in Delhi between Congress leaders and the cops. Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, others were stopped in their protest march. Priyanka Gandhi, in fact, sat down on the road for a while as the other leaders were stopped on their tracks during their protest march from Parliament to the President's house. She was, in fact, roughed up by the cops herself. And that's the visual that's playing out for you on the left sides of your screens. Priyanka Gandhi literally being roughed up, manhandled and dragged into the police car there. So that is really what happened today. Meanwhile, Congress leader Dipinder Hooda was also seen being dragged by the police. All the leaders have been released now. But Nukul is now back with us. Nukul, what's the latest? What can you tell us?
Yes, we are at the Kingsway Club right now, and the leaders have been released after more than 5 years of detention here at the Kingsway Club. And it's a sigh of relief for the Congress and leaders who have been protesting since the morning. And police had detained them while they were protesting at the Vijay Chowk and at the AICC headquarters this morning. And they were detained and brought to Kingsway Club, and here you can see that after more than 5 hours of detention, they have been released. Various Congress leaders, senior leaders of Congress, had been detained, including the member of Parliament and members of Parliament and Rahul Gandhi, including Priyanka Gandhi, was inside this Kingsway Club. We spoke to several leaders who were present here. Sachin Pilot had come out and gave a bite and said that this is a fight which is Congress will continue in the further coming days as well. This is a fight against the inflation, and this is a fight against the price rise that has been going on, and the Congress is still firm on the stance that this fight is on the price rise and the inflation that is going on in the country. As in the morning we saw during the protest as well, Congress have been very firm on this stance. At the same time, we spoke to Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary as well, who had stated, we also posed him a question on stating that one of the Congress leaders are saying that we are protecting and fighting against and protecting our Neta, but they are continuously firm on the stance and have been saying that we are fighting against the price rise and the inflation in the country and against the employment. But the latest update so far we are getting is that after more than 5 hours of detention, Congress leaders have finally been released from the Kingsway Club.
Absolutely, Nukul. In fact, earlier on, the way we saw that entire face-off that happened, in fact, Priyanka Gandhi herself, who was being literally picked up and shoved inside the police car over there. What has been the reaction to all of that? Because this has escalated to another level now. It's no longer simply about, protests that are taking place.
Well, absolutely high intense dramatic visuals we saw this morning while Priyanka Gandhi was also detained by the police. She was trying to resist the detention, but at the same time we saw the visuals that how she was resisting the detention made by the Delhi police officials. But at the same time, the reaction would come out later. At the same time, we know given to understand that there was no prior permission. At the same time, the administration had also announced that there is no permission to protest, and section 144 is there. So there was absolutely no permission given by the administration to protest. But the Congress yesterday, Nasir Hussain, the MP of the Congress, had yesterday also after the press conference announced that they are going to protest all across the country, and they are going to protest from the parliament to the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and will go do a gherao outside the PM residence. But the plans were shattered by the Delhi police. They put the barricades, and they were detained before they could protest. At the same time, we saw high visual drama outside the parliament at the Vijay Chowk. At the same time, we saw how Congress leaders were also detained outside the AICC, including Priyanka Gandhi and senior leader of Congress. But right now, the Congress leaders have been released from the Kingsway Club after more than 5 hours of detention.
All right, Nukul, thank you so much for getting us all of those details.